Welcome to Raising Scholars, an educational podcast brought to you by the Lake Havasu Unified School District in partnership with Shawn, Lawless and 32 Bravo Media. This is a podcast designed for families to hear all about the mission and vision of learning which is being carried out at Lake Havasu Unified School District for the academic and social emotional growth of students in our district. It's also a place to share tips, tools, advice, and reflections on how our schools, families, and community can help our students learn to make the most of their potential in their K-12 learning experiences. We are so excited to be bringing these conversations to you on a variety of topics from educators, parents, administrators, alumni, and even students across our district. Our goal for you is to leave each time with a little bit more knowledge on how to help your students be successful. So let's dive on in together. Dr. Rebecca Stone is in her 32nd year in education and currently serves as the superintendent of LHUSD number 1. Previously, she had served as the executive director of student services, director of special education, and elementary and middle school principal in Virginia. She began her career teaching special needs students in both Maryland and Virginia, sparking her desire to support students more and to support staff through her work in administration. Dr. Stone holds a doctorate in educational leadership and a master's in administration and supervision from Virginia Commonwealth University. She also holds a Bachelor of Science in Special Education from Mansfield University. Dr. Stone, welcome. I'm really excited to have you here today to talk a little bit about the vision of learning for Lake Havasu Unified School District. This is our first Raising Scholars podcast, and we are just really thrilled to be able to share a little bit of perspective for our families, help provide resources, and really, since we're starting this off as the first podcast, we wanted to hear from you way more about the vision of learning for Lake Havasu Unified School District, because really our vision propels our actions, right? So we want our families to be able to understand the vision that we've set forth, our plan for helping our students reach their goals, and really how our families can take part in helping their kids be successful.
Absolutely. I'm excited about this podcast for the same exact reason, so I'm glad to get it started.
Well, I'm really excited. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start off with our topic questions, okay? For those people listening, again, the topic for today is really the vision of learning for Lake Havasu Unified School District. So all of our questions are going to kind of tie into that.
Great.
So tell us a little bit about your background in education and how it led you to administration.
So I started out as a special education teacher.
Okay.
And as most people know, your special education classes are going to be a little bit smaller.
Right.
But I loved helping those kids and having that impact.
Yeah.
And then as a special education teacher, I also got to work in inclusion settings. So I could go out and work with other teachers.
Sure.
And help kids be successful in that arena as well. So I realized at that point, in order to have a bigger impact in the world of education, I wanted to step into administration so then I could help kids and more kids, obviously, but I could also help staff achieve their goals as well.
Well, because when we help teachers be successful, then we help kids be successful,
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, okay. So how did your experiences lead you to Lake Havasu and the Lake Havasu Unified School District? Because we know you have a much more extensive background before you got here to Lake Havasu.
Mm-hmm. So I went through the process of being an elementary school principal for quite some time.
Okay.
And then moved up to the district office. It was always a desire of mine to be a director of special education. Yeah. So I got that opportunity and was really enjoying that, and then really became an assistant superintendent in student services, which is a much broader role. And then at that point, it was considering your next step is going to be a superintendent. Did I want to do that? Was I going to retire where I was? I wasn't really sure how all that was going to go. But then I've shared with you many times, I was not ready to retire. My husband had been retired for several years.
Yes.
And he wanted to move to someplace warmer, or just someplace in general.
Right.
I happened to be out here visiting my mom, and Diana Sire was retiring. Right. So I took that opportunity to apply and see what happened. And I'm super excited that I was able to get the job and able to come here. We love the community. It allows me to be obviously very close to my mom, but also continue to do a job that I love.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love, as a employee of the school district, former principal, I'm really just excited that you joined us, because it's leaders like you that help propel that vision forward. So thank you for joining us. I'm just glad you're here. So tell me a little bit about the focus for you. What is your focus as superintendent in supporting the students within our school district?
So the most important focus for me is graduating each student in a pathway that leads to success.
Sure.
So it could be directly to the workforce, military, community college, trade school, or
Right.
university.
Right.
But making sure that we have a wide variety of pathways that support all of our students in defining whatever their future goals are and what
Right.
they want to be.
Right.
And that really starts in our elementary schools.
It does.
We have kids that are researching different careers, looking at different things, and then that continues through the middle school as they pick their path moving forward.
And and recently we've had new curriculum, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel like since the basis of learning is really at elementary level, do you feel like the connections between elementary, middle school, and high school, that's where we're headed?
I think that's extremely important, and that is one of the things. When I got here, we started adopting new curriculum.
Right.
So the big shift in that K-8 area is moving from a skills-based curriculum where we really teach kids skills in isolation, but they don't really put them together until later in their career, to starting that connection much, much earlier. So having a content-rich curriculum that starts with learning lots of background knowledge so they're ready to take on those advanced things when they move forward is the important piece of that. And it's already shown success at our elementary level as kids are coming to their next grade level ready to take on some more in-depth things.
Right. And we started with math, Singapore math, right? And that it's been 3 years, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. And then our core knowledge has been in place for 2 years with all of the elementary except for one, right?
Right.
One
this is the
three.
second year for everybody except Oro Grande, and Oro Grande has had it 3 or 4.
And being that, when kids go through change, one of those things that we know that we're seeing at all of our elementaries is that transitional phase, right?
Yes.
Because everything takes about 3 to 5 years for that transition to settle in and kids to feel much more comfortable.
Absolutely. So our kindergartners who started last year, this is all they know.
Yes.
They're used to that, and they're moving through. It's obviously a much bigger shift as you had 3rd, 4th, 5th moving forward.
Right.
Those kids were experiencing something brand new.
Right. Right. Well, I know that we're seeing really positive things as we're starting to move forward. So what systems has LHUSD put in place to ensure the success of all of our learners? You were talking about your special education background, so like thinking about every student.
Absolutely. So the first thing was that adoption of curriculum.
Right.
But the second thing that we're really focusing on is intervention.
Okay.
So we get lost in the idea that intervention stops when kids are young.
Right.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
There are kids who need more support or even more intensive services all the way through their educational career.
Right.
They can still be extremely successful when they get out of high school.
Right.
But we have to make sure that we've got that in there. Now, don't get me wrong. Early intervention is super important because the key here is making sure that all of our kids can read and typically read at grade level.
Right.
So that early intervention is very necessary to make sure that's happening. But we're looking at intervention as it works all the way through.
Right.
And one of the keys to that is data. So we have implemented new assessment systems. So we're able to look at that data as a staff. Our principals look at it regularly and talk about, okay, so what kids need some extra support. They don't need it forever. They may need it for this typical time period, and then they move right back into their gen ed work. But that's a critical piece to making sure kids are successful.
So can you expand on that just a little bit? Because I know some parents who may be listening aren't as familiar as we may be as educators to what what interventions look like. So what does intervention look like? Give them a picture of what it looks like at elementary versus middle school versus high school.
So at the elementary level, intervention is really, we have a reading interventionist, we have paras who work with those interventionists, and with regular assessment, we realize kids may be missing a specific skill in reading. So they're going to go to that teacher for what they call a burst lesson. The burst lesson gets them back up to speed where they can then go right back in the classroom, continue on with the regular studies. It's really in addition to the work that they're getting in the regular classroom. So they're having that regular reading lesson, but then they're coming out for a little bit of extra time for that burst lesson. So when I moved to middle school, sometimes kids need an actual class. So while I'm I'm still in my English class and I'm doing okay. I might also need a Read 180 class, which just helps them get those foundational skills up to speed where they can continue on with the rest of their peers. Right. High school continues that as well. Yeah. But the key is that kids move in and out. They don't stay there for years and years and years. If that's happening, then it's not successful.
That's correct, yeah. And I think one of the things that parents also, unless they're a really big part of that conversation, or they're in IEP meetings or different meetings that are taking place to talk about their kids' data, that's one of those things that I think kind of gets overlooked, is that data is a very big piece of the conversation. Because if you're not looking at it and analyzing it regularly, you really don't know what their trajectory looks like. So, yeah. So kind of putting it all together, right? What is your overall vision of learning for our students? How do you feel we can reach our mission to ensure that student success? Like, what does that look like over time?
So my vision of learning really goes back to the pathways, that every kid has a viable pathway to becoming a productive citizen, and that learning needs to be engaging and meaningful. Yeah. If we haven't done that, then they're not likely to finish and be successful because they never really engage with all of the opportunities that they have. Right. So that's a piece, is to make sure that we're plugging into them and making sure that they are engaged and that they're finding something meaningful to do. And the key is the more pathways we provide, and more importantly, the stronger partnerships we build with families to ensure they know those pathways and how to support their child at home, really supports fulfilling our mission.
Right. Well, and so that's where the teacher and the student come together. And then kind of that last piece is the parent. So how do you feel like, as our last connection for families, how do you feel like the families can engage more with maybe the resources that we have, or even just engaging in the schools to be able to connect that last piece? So
we do firmly believe that parents are their children's first teacher, and they're really their most important teacher. Right. One of the best features of our new curriculum, not only K-8, but even as we have started to move into the high school, I think curriculum companies have started to realize that partnership is really important. Right. So there are family letters that go home for every unit. And the neat thing about those are they have the topics. They have what we're going to be doing. Right. So it fosters those conversations at home where kids get to retell what they've learned, and parents know to ask more questions because they have a little more information in advance. And that's a great way for kids to have even deeper learning of those concepts when they're having those conversations with their parents. It's incredibly important, no matter the subject. We've been having math nights and talking about the fact that do some math facts in your car on the way home. Yes. It does help kids learn and retain that information so much better. And the other piece is just what we talked about before. Engage with your child's teacher. Engage with the principal. Yeah. Where are places that you can plug in and be a part of that school? Yeah. I know people's time is precious and they're busy, but there's always something that they can find to do and help out with their school.
Well, and as a principal, I know that one of the things that I always was looking for was parents to reach out, call me, ask me questions, let me know if there's any suggestions you need. Then absolutely. Our staff is always willing to help to reach out and help out. So, so that's really what we wanted to share as far as the parent side of things. I want to go ahead and have some fun with you and do some rapid fire questions so that our families can get to know you a little bit more. So tell us, so what was your favorite thing about where you grew up or went to high school?
I would go back to the fact that it was a really small town, so everyone knew everyone. Okay. It was a very safe place.
Not unlike Lake Havasu.
Not very much like Lake Havasu. It's fascinating to me being here because people see this as a sprawling city and it's huge. It is, but it's really not. Yeah. Everybody still knows everybody, and they can say, they know the mayor and they know the Chamber of Commerce people, but it's still a very small town, and I love that.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that comes out of a small community is that level of support. Mm-hmm. We have such an engaging community. We have such a committed community to giving back to our schools. We're very thankful for that, and I know very thankful. As growing up here, I feel the same way you do. So, okay. And what is one thing you would tell your 10-year-old self to give them perspective?
It's really hard.
I want to hear this. I have a 10-year-old.
But I'd tell them don't sweat the small stuff.
Very good
that
advice.
when you think about it a week from now, is it still going to be a problem? Or a
Yeah.
month from now?
That's very
Often
good
it's
advice.
not.
I think I might have said that last week to my 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Who has been the most influential person in your life, and how did they impact your leadership?
So I'll go back to my mom. And the reason I say that is because, much like I said, parents are their child's first teacher and their most important teacher. My mom's absolutely my most important teacher. She taught us all you need to be honest, you need to do things with integrity.
Right.
She taught us all those skills and expected us to carry them out. So again, she was our biggest cheerleader, but also held us accountable to all of those things and still does.
And I feel like the way that connects to vision is the fact that that's your character, right?
Absolutely.
That's the building of the character. Okay, what was your favorite subject?
English language arts.
Worst?
Shop. I had to take shop.
We did too, so that might have been my worst as well. What type of learner are you?
I'm an auditory learner. I get kind of lost if people put up a lot of visuals.
Okay, that's good
too
to
much
know.
for me.
What is one place you've always wanted to visit?
I've always wanted to visit Sweden. My great-grandparents came from Sweden
Okay.
here, and my grandfather spoke Swedish to us all the years we were growing up. And someday I'll get there and
You
see
will.
the things they've talked about.
I'm certain you will. Okay, PE or art?
Neither.
Oh. Wasn't expecting that. Okay, third option?
Third option. There's more.
Well.
I loved choir.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
That's good. Okay, do you have a really good voice? I'm
You
not
would
going to
have
make
to
you
ask
sing.
someone else.
I'm not going to make you sing.
I did. I spent much of my years growing up singing in church and singing in choirs at our school, and I did sing in my own wedding.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The fun part for me in that is that our minister was much older and retiring, and of all the years he had done weddings, the bride had never sung. So that was
That's
neat.
very cool. Okay, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a child psychologist.
Really?
I did. So.
And you're still in schools helping kids, so there we go,
Absolutely.
right? You're just in a different
Absolutely.
position. So I just want to say thank you again for launching this podcast with us, for helping share our vision for Lake Havasu Unified School District, and for helping parents see the resources that are there for them, for the vision for our school, and really for just launching our ability to help serve our parents in new ways. So
Absolutely. And I'm so excited about all your other guests and what parents can really get from this podcast.
absolutely. So again, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. We want to take the time today to thank you and Shawn Lawless from 32 Bravo Media for helping make our Raising Scholars broadcast a reality. You can tune into this or any new episode on our Lake Havasu Unified School District website, on the communications page, or our Lake Havasu Unified School District Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or linked in to our quarterly newsletters. Don't forget to tune in to our next episode with Christy Olson to talk more about our curriculum. We can't wait to see you there, because at the end of the day, the most overwhelming key to a child's success is the positive involvement of parents.